We went dog sledding. That was crazy. I can't believe I did that.
You've been dog sledding?
This is Don't Panic, episode number 193, recorded February 12th, 2018, The Mysterious Yeti. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast on Gadgets, the Internet, and You. I'm Shaun, joined as always by my two co-hosts, a couple of Olympic medalists in talking tech. It is Colby Rabideau and Dan Miller. Hello, gentlemen. Speaking of
Colby's
winter,
apparently an Olympic medalist in dog sledding.
yes, this is a. I can't think of a better story to start with.
Yes, the school field trip, one-time dog sledding tour that I did in ninth grade was basically a stepping stone to the Olympics. Had I chosen to pursue it, however I did.
It was a prestigious program.
Yes, my passions lay elsewhere, alas.
Yeah, instead you're sledding the streets of Boston instead.
Mm-hmm. I did catch up on some curling this weekend. Hadn't seen curling in a while.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I feel like people got really into the curling. Was there something? I haven't watched any of the Olympics at all. It was a rough weekend. But it seemed like online people are getting really into the curling. Was there something specific that happened?
No.
I don't know. It's just cool. They have like the brushes.
They do have the brushes.
They slide the rock and then they yell at each other. I don't understand how the scoring works.
Would you like to know how the scoring works?
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's actually,
yes.
It sounds really complicated, but actually it's pretty simple, right? So in each you play, was it 8 ends? They call them ends, and in each you get each team throws 6 of the stones, okay? And only one team can score per end, so it's always something to 0 in each end, okay? The only team that can score is the one who gets theirs closest to the center. If you have one closest to the center, it's 1 point. If 2 of yours are closest to the center with none of the other teams, that's 2 points. If you get all 8 of yours closest to the center, that's called a perfect something, and that's like the best score you can have in an end, and then you play all the ends. Does that make sense?
So only one team can get points
in an end. Yes.
In an end.
Yes, in a round per se. Yes, and it's however many you have closest.
I think that I was trying to figure out as I was watching it. To be fair, I was not watching it for very long. It was like maybe half an hour. But I couldn't figure out what the deal was, because like teams had points, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's like if you get the stone close to the center, like maybe you get a point for each one. Like maybe it has something to do with the rings. The rings. And then
this is actually one of my favorite games to play with all sorts of sports and board games. Is without looking it up, try to guess what the rules are. I feel like the Olympics of that sport is trying to figure out what the rules to cricket are.
Oh boy. Yeah,
but
that's
for
a
certain
whole
board games without the rule book, it can be sort of fun too. Just to look at the pieces and try to guess.
Yeah, it's I feel like it was. So I was watching curling just on the live stream, and it was like the Russia not Russia team versus like China or Japan or something. So
not Russia.
The OAR team, the Olympic athletes from Russia.
Oh, okay. This is another thing that people have been talking about. I didn't understand. So like Russia's not competing, but they are.
No, they were banned.
So Russia, the country, is banned, but some athletes from Russia that I guess like were able to prove that they didn't dope last time, are allowed to compete, but they are competing under this like non-denominational title of Olympic athlete from Russia.
I see.
Yep.
The oars.
Yes, exactly, with their little Olympic ring flag.
Right.
Missed opportunity.
I don't know if any of them. Oh no, one actually. I was watching before we came on. They were doing the women's snowboarding half pipe. Or no, I'm sorry. No, one medaled in the alpine. Or no, what's the one where they fly off the jump and they go like this? And then they got to land on the skis really far, which...
yeah.
Whatever that's called.
The shoot and jump.
Yeah. Dan Miller names the Olympic sport. Oh, look, they're playing rock throwers. Yeah, you know,
Imagine if they combined that like ski jump thing with like is it the triathlon where they
There are
like
so many.
ski and then shoot
the
stuff,
biathlon,
but like
yeah.
yes, you have to go down, you have to ski down the jump, and like as you're going off, like when you're in the air, you
You have to
like
shoot a
the
gun.
dart. That'd be
See,
cool.
I thought you were going where people were shooting at the people flying off.
That's pretty good
like,
too.
Oh
like,
God.
like winter skeet shooting.
We'll do it like paintball. Like that would be great. Yeah, we need to really amp up the extreme nature of the Olympics. It's a little boring.
Yes.
Actually, I think
imagine this big curling.
that's another one. I don't want you to explain what it is. I just want you to leave it at big curling. You folks at home, use your own imagination.
I had another question, but I forgot what it was.
Well, I can give you a curling fun fact.
Oh, okay, yes, please.
Did you know that all of the stones used in official curling are from the same small island? I think it's off the coast of like Ireland, Scotland, somewhere in that area. And they have to come from that island, and actually there's a concern that they may mine out that island. It's a specific type of stone, and there may be a finite limit to the amount of curling stones that could ever be produced.
Damn.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
Have you seen the, it's not a Vine, but the Vine formatted GIF video thing of these two people pretending to do curling in the house with a Swiffer and a Roomba?
Mm.
And the Roomba leaves its stock and they're furiously Swiffering in front of them. It's just traveling at a constant speed directly forward. I'll never be able to find it, but I'll try.
You did a good job of describing it.
That sounds
Mission
awesome.
accomplished.
Did you watch the opening ceremonies?
No. I heard there were drones.
Yeah, they had the drones from the Super Bowl again.
Can you just
I was wondering if now, Shaun, I feel like you were the one who told me this, that for the Super Bowl the drones were not on the night of the Super Bowl.
Yes,
they had filmed them.
Yeah.
Right. I was wondering if they had done the same thing.
I don't know. I want to say I think they were live, but don't quote me on that.
It does seem more like I understand why they didn't want to fly like 100 drones that might crash into each other over a stadium filled with people. That would probably be a PR disaster.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat though. A cool technology angle.
Yeah. No, that's well, my pick is Olympics related, but no, I love the technology of the Olympics now that they got all the graphics and the special sensors that there was a big issue that's been happening. So this year I've really been big into all of the sort of outdoor snow, sort of all the snowboarding and skiing type events have been really fun to watch. But they've had a big problem, whatever mountain they're doing the Olympics on. It's been super windy. I was watching the women's snowboard. It's not the half pipe. It's the one where they go off the jumps and do the tricks.
Mm-hmm.
And they were crashing constantly. It was too windy. They really shouldn't have had the event. But they had all these like cool sensors and shit where they're like, oh, when they go off this jump, they're hitting it at 12 miles per hour, and below 11 is where it's safe. And they were showing all the technology around how they just kind of shoot and produce the Olympics is very neat. And it's been fun to watch.
That's cool.
They do it with the luge now, I was watching, where they'll actually superimpose another run on top of the other. So it's like the replay on top of the other replays. Right. You can see like how much slower or faster they are by how much they overlap or they're behind.
So it's like in Mario Kart where you could like race your past time and it was like the ghost.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll ask both of you how you're watching the Olympics during picks. How's that sound? That was going to be my other question.
Fair enough. I think that'll work out fine. Is there any non-Olympics related banter? Casual conversation to be had?
No, I'm going to keep complaining about... Here's Dan Miller complains about technology this week. Last week I complained about updates in Mac OS.
Yep.
I have... For a long time, the best mouse I ever owned was a Logitech Performance MX, but they stopped making it.
Those are nice.
It does seem that they came out with a new model that is more like that than the other ones that they had. called a Logitech Master 2S or S2 or something. And I got it for work, and it uses Bluetooth, which is better than like plugging things in with USB, or so I thought. But I've had it for about 2 or 3 months at this point, and twice I've came into work, and it's just not connected anymore, and it like doesn't show up as a thing to connect to, and in order to connect, I have to completely repair it. What the hell? Does this happen to you? And it's such a bummer because it's desktop computers. So, like, fixing this is like it's an exercise in dexterity, and frustration.
I've never had a Bluetooth mouse that has worked properly. Never. I've tried a couple of them. I've returned them to the store. I've hated them so much. I've always gone back to the dongle, which for a laptop I know is kind of a pain. For a desktop, not as much, but. The dongle just works so much better. The Bluetooth mice are terrible.
Maybe I think this one might have a dongle option. You could just get a dongle. I think I probably have one lying around. Maybe I should try that.
Yeah, I'd recommend the dongle, especially for a desktop where it's not really a big deal.
No, it doesn't. Like, I don't use USB for anything. I don't give a crap about saving a USB port. I have my keyboard plugged in right now. That's it.
Well, I will say, I think the only Bluetooth mouse that's ever really worked well is the Magic Mouse that I...
Yeah, the Magic Mouse, that's my fallback. So when this mouse doesn't work, I turn the Magic Mouse on that came with the computer, and that always works.
Like magic.
Yeah.
When I started my new job, there was a Magic Mouse on my desk. I demanded a trackpad.
Oh,
yeah!
Demanded. You were like, listen, I accepted your offer. I even showed up on the first day.
Right. The least you could do.
We clearly did not lay down in the negotiation phase that we're going to have to rectify.
I like to imagine they were like, Mr. Revenue, you can have this beautiful corner office, or we can get you a magic trackpad, but not both. And Colby said, give me my magic trackpad. And now he works in like a closet, but he's so happy because he has his magic trackpad.
I am.
Damn. I would have taken the corner office and bought myself a magic trackpad.
Yeah.
just bring the one from home.
Yeah.
No, I did figure out today. This was exciting. This is Shaun. Shaun continues to learn how to use a Macintosh. I figured out how to AirPlay from my phone to my Mac. It was neat.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I had some photos and videos on my phone, and
Do you mean AirDrop?
AirDrop. Whatever, same thing. Same thing. Totally interchangeable. Basically identical. Yeah, so that was really great. It was, wow, that was cool. And then they just kind of showed up. It was a real hoot. And then I put them in the OneDrive folder so they could be synced to my Windows, and everything continued to work magically.
Yeah.
This is also based off of the Due by Friday topic. I was very surprised to hear all these people who are talking about all these files they have. I feel like actually, let me just ask you, do you feel like you have lots of files and like file management problems, and you're producing lots of files and you have to find files, but it's difficult, and you store files in the cloud and you're using them constantly? Do you feel like you have those problems?
Dan, I feel like this was going to be my pick for the show.
Oh,
I haven't put it in the doc yet.
Should we wait till picks? We're going to have way more to talk about in picks than we do at any other part of the show.
I know. Maybe it should just be a picks episode.
Well, if you want to hold off, I'll answer the question, Colby. You can hold off if you'd like.
All right. You can abstain.
Okay.
I used to, and then an accidental file syncing problem deleted half a semester's worth of notes on my laptop, and after that I got real serious real fast about file organization. So currently everything is in my Dropbox. I just checked 730 gigabytes worth of files in my Dropbox, and they're all organized in very clear folders. And the last couple of years I've gotten a little sloppy, but for the most part all my files are real, and at work they're all in nested folders, very tightly organized. I don't fool around.
I see, Colby. But do you today find yourself in your personal life like going to Dropbox for these files often?
No, because I don't. Like, what files?
Exactly.
Honestly, do you know
the
where? Do you
last
know where I go
time
for
I
information?
produced files that didn't have to be in my works Google Drive was senior year of college.
No, I'll give you the perfect example. And actually, this kind of scared me a little bit. I realized that I did my taxes this past week, and do you know where my files are? They're in my Gmail. They're in my email. It's all like receipts and stuff that was sent to me. Like, I don't have any actual files. Everything I ever search for is in Gmail.
Yeah. I have a couple PDFs that I know are like important, and those are all in iCloud Drive. But there's on the order of tens of those, not like thousands, not to the point where it would be like untenable. And I can't even imagine when it would become untenable. Like, maybe I'm just not enough of an adult to be generating sufficient paperwork or something. Maybe like I just hit like adulthood right at the point where you like people stop caring about files, because I can also log into my bank account to get the bank statements, log into the HR portal thing at work to get the paychecks, and all, like, you know, on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I realized that when I was doing my taxes. Another realization that I'm becoming an adult. That here, I can reach over and grab. I have about 10 of these, maybe more, just filled with paperwork. I have to go get like a goddamn file cabinet or a file box with like folders. I have too much paperwork. This is crazy. Look, so there are my taxes.
Some of that I have too, right? Like some things you're just gonna get.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
This is
now, Shaun, someone might be able to zoom in and enhance on this still frame and steal your identity.
No, this is literally this folder is just from me prepping, executing, and landing the move from Houston to here. This is just paperwork from that. Moving trucks, rent slips, exit paperwork from my last job. It's too much.
Why do you need the moving truck? I guess. Where is it? Paid relocation?
Oh look, here's my warranty from Sunglass Hut, Dan. You gotta have all this paperwork.
No. Okay, I think we're exposing another problem here, Shaun. I think you have a little bit of paper hoarding going on.
Look, here's the excise tax I paid in Houston last year. Or no, this is from 2 years ago. It's from City of Pittsfield.
Excise tax?
Hey, I have a car.
Oh.
There's so much.
I guess I also don't have one of those.
So look, here's a slip for an oil change I got while I was in Houston. Do I even still need this?
Shaun, can you acknowledge?
I think neither you or I have real adult responsibilities, in that
because we don't have a car.
Neither of us has a car or a house.
That's
so
true.
like I've never had like a loan besides college loans.
That's true.
I have too many. What is
crazy?
Oh, look here. Do you want to see my medical records?
Shaun, can you acknowledge that you don't need any of this paperwork?
Okay, don't laugh. I do need some of it, and it's in my Gmail because I'm what do you call it with your taxes? I'm deducting all of my moving expenses, so I need the receipt for the moving truck and for the boxes and for the movers and for all this. All the receipts were digital. They were all in my Gmail. I just searched them. It was great.
Does that mean you have to keep them forever?
They say I think 5 years you're supposed to keep your tax paperwork. Give or take.
Well,
yeah.
I did. So while I was off of work, we might have talked about this on a previous show. I went through my important documents folder and like threw out a ton of stuff, because most of it was just like the letters that the bank sends you, even though you have like don't send me any letters in the mail check, then they send it anyway.
Special offer for you.
Right. I hate the one.
Just pay $100 and you look at this credit card and you look at all these benefits that it's a credit card through us.
It's true.
Yeah. Do you guys get the ones from like Bank of America? So Bank of America sends me these. They still do sometimes. For a while they sent it constantly. Yep. But it was like, it had like checks in it, and they were like checks. They were like temporary checks, but you could use them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And I was like, one, I don't want to use this. Two, I don't even want to have a Bank of America account.
Uh-oh.
Bank
of America is not happy.
Nope. Uh-oh. But anyhow. I actually keep the momentum going. I actually got a stack of about 400 checks, real checks, to the real bank account of the people who used to live here. And they would have totally worked. And so I called their bank, and I was like, they don't live here anymore. Please don't send me. I had to destroy the checks. So no one would steal
How did you destroy them?
So I tried lighting them on fire, and they would not light on fire. Don't laugh. I'm like, what's the best way to destroy them? I'll burn them.
That would have been my first guess, except here I would have had nowhere to light it on fire safely. Like my bathtub, maybe? Like, I don't have a fireplace.
Yeah, no, I tried doing it out on my little patio, and, yeah, no dice. No dice. So I ended up, they were half lit on fire, and I just kind of tore them up and got rid of them. I was very disappointed. That was going to be my big dramatic moment, and...
How much work and, like, forearm strength did it take to tear up all of those checks?
Well, the thing is, Dan, they were already half burnt, and then to put out the embers, I got them all wet, so they were damp. So take for it what you will from that.
You really destroyed him.
Look, man, I value those people's personal identity. I think they might be dead. I don't know. I still get a lot of
Okay.
Anyhow,
That got dark.
well, but true, dark but true.
All right.
Anyway, Dan, I don't.
You want to talk about some tech news?
Yeah, we can do that while we're waiting for Colby to get back. We've already gone like 25 minutes into the show, so I guess there's no better time to get to the news.
Yeah, well, you know what they say. The best time to talk about tech news was
10 minutes ago.
Yeah, 30 minutes ago. The second best time is now.
Yep. Okay, good. Let's get to the tech news now with our guest, Colby.
Yeah, I'm back.
He's back. And what would you guys like to talk about? Because we got we have some stories, not a ton. We've got shipping with Amazon. We've got Google streaming games. We've got updates on iOS and Android. We've got Disney.
Well, we have to start with follow-up.
Follow-up. If you listened to last week's episode, you may remember we talked about Elon Musk being a lunatic and threatening to send a sports car into outer space. Good news, he did it. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket took off from Cape Canaveral last week and soared into space carrying the payload, a red Tesla Roadster containing a spaceman, into orbit. It was the test flight of their new heavy rocket. The rocket, they believe, could one day take us to Mars. The two of the Falcon Heavy's rocket cores successfully touched back down to Earth after takeoff. The two boosters broke away mid-flight and returned to Cape Canaveral, touching down around 1,000 feet from each other on the landing pads. The center core then broke away from the vehicle, but did not land as intended on one of the autonomous drone ships in the Atlantic Oceans. It crashed into it at about 300 miles per hour. That means SpaceX has now landed a total of 23 rockets upright. The Falcon Heavy now holds the title for the world's most powerful rocket, and its launch marks the first time a vehicle this massive has ever been sent up by a commercial company, boasting 27 engines, which combine for 5 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. That's more than twice the weight as any other operational rocket currently in operation.
So that was the one that's bigger, right? Was the like Saturn V rocket,
Yes.
which is the one they went to the moon with?
Back in the 70s,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Cool. I mean, the most important part of this story is that this very podcast had a shout out from Elon Musk on the dashboard of the car that is hurtling towards Mars or the sun or whatever right now.
Yeah, let me. I can actually put it up on the screen here for the folks at home who may not have seen it. But this is right in the dash, right on the infotainment display. Don't panic, which was great. We really, I don't know how we were able to afford the placement, but.
Well, it was all of those Amazon referral credits adding up bit by bit.
That's right. I just transferred them right over to Elon Musk's Amazon referrals account. And
Direct transfer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out well.
I think the best thing we got out of this launch were all of the various memes about the guy in the car in space.
Yep.
Those
Actually,
were
haven't
hilarious.
seen any memes about the guy in the car in space.
Oh man, all the Uber driver jokes.
Yeah, a lot of Waze jokes I saw.
Oh man.
Other drivers have reported asteroids ahead.
Yep. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
And the images actually from the various like photos of and views out of the car looked so cool.
Yeah.
My favorite tweets had to be the Elon Musk committed the perfect murder tweets. You know, like there really is somebody inside the spacesuit.
Oh god.
It's the perfect crime. Yeah. They'll never catch him.
That's true.
That's some Hollywood stuff there.
Yep.
That's true. I thought the coolest part of that, like I ended up watching the live stream, but it was so cool when the two like side booster things like landed together. That was crazy.
Yes. Very impressive.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. It's very, very cool. Yeah. Space.
Yeah, it was neat to watch. The next thing for SpaceX, the Elon Musk has teased the Falcon Super Heavy, which would be even larger, but they're quite a ways away from testing that. I suppose the next would be using the Falcon Heavy to transport cargo and eventually people up into space in the International Space Station. They claim the Falcon Heavy can do it for a fraction of the cost of what we're paying the Russians now to do with their ships. So,
what should they send up with the Falcon Super Heavy?
One of the Tesla semi-trucks.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
The obvious choice.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, it says right here, the Falcon Heavy is scheduled to launch a large Saudi Arabian communications satellite sometime in the first half of 2018. Then it'll send up a test payload for the Air Force no earlier than June as a way to certify the rocket for national security missions. And after that, it's contracted to launch 2 additional satellites throughout the rest of this year.
Wow.
So, a lot more launches on its way.
It's pretty cool.
Yep. So, there's your follow-up for this evening. You heard it first. Let's see what else we got, guys.
We should definitely talk about what's next for iOS and Android.
Yeah, totally. We had some cool leaks this week about what's coming for the next couple versions. We usually start with Apple, so let's start with Android, I think. Android P is the next one. We just had Android Oreo. Android P.
Mr. P! Now they name him after rappers.
P. Diddy. Jesus. No, it was Master P. Master P.
Master P.
And then there was also P. Diddy.
It wasn't Mr. P?
No. You're thinking of Mr. T. So basically interchangeable, Master P and Mr. T.
I'll get it right one of these days.
I know, Dan. You're up with the hip-hop scene. I get it. Now, interestingly enough, and I didn't know this, only 1.1% of Android users are using Oreo, the latest version, which is the lowest install base of any version of Android, which is crazy.
Ever or just like currently?
I think it says it's sixth overall, but everything after it is like super ancient, like of the modern stuff. The most common, the most used version is version 7, Nougat.
Was that the last version?
Well, that was before Oreo.
So that's 2 versions old.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah, not great.
Man.
And version 6, even before that, is at 28%. So we're pretty fractured, but we're still getting another one. Android P, we're starting to hear rumors about what it might include. It's all about improving the look of the software to better appeal to existing iPhone users in the hopes they'll make the switch. A redesign will focus on the looks. They also say it will update the operating system to better integrate camera notches, such as the one found on the Essential phone and iPhone X, as well as more hardware. Also rumored to be part of Android P is better support for different form factors for Android devices, including features like multiple screens and foldable displays. They also said to be planning to further embed Assistant into Android, allowing third-party developers to directly integrate Assistant into their own apps. It might also be added to the Google search bar on the home screen, but we will see. A formal announcement is likely to come at the Google I/O conference later this spring.
Neat.
So, I don't know. Is design what's keeping iPhone users from switching?
No, I think it's momentum and ecosystem. Although I've never really talked to techie iPhone users about why they don't use Android. Have either of you ever talked to anyone about that?
I have.
What have they said?
I don't know.
It was a lot of ecosystem stuff. It was I've always used a Samsung, so I keep buying them type stuff. There really weren't any like big feature.
I meant the other way around.
Oh!
Apple users who might switch to, non-techie Apple users who would they switch to Android?
No, not that I haven't.
Yeah, I've never really asked.
No.
I never thought to ask.
I know.
I didn't know that was something someone could do.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's ecosystem stuff or it's just momentum. I would totally buy ecosystem, although app like it would have to be a lot about apps at that point because iTunes is less important and it is technically on Android. Although you have Apple Music now, which a lot of people have bought. Like, I don't know what the numbers were, or how they compare to Spotify, but I remember them being comparable, which was shocking. So people are paying for it. But I guess you can also use Apple Music on Android. So who knows? We have no idea. If you are one of these people, write in and tell us why you haven't switched to Android.
You can comment right now on the live stream. We're live right now on Facebook at facebook.com/Don'tPanicShow and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Don'tPanicShow. No, Dan, I will say, I think for me, part of the reason I wouldn't switch is design. Because I haven't used Android in a while. The last I used was probably a couple versions ago. But one of the things I remember is that the apps were incredibly inconsistent in their design and execution. The OS elements were incredibly inconsistent. The menus did not work great. They didn't look great. It just didn't feel good to use. I'm sure the features are great. I'm glad they're integrating Assistant in more places. Again, I'm not going to switch because I am integrating the ecosystem, but if I were interested in switching, I think design would be a big reason that would hold me back. So I'm glad that they're addressing it. And we know Apple's addressing it. We'll talk about this in a second, but in a future version of iOS, they're going to be looking at redesigning the home screen and looking at how design plays a feature. So I think it is pretty critical for them to really address that.
Speaking of...
I think... I'm trying. Sorry. As I feel like, I'm the only one on the show who ever switched to Android once, right?
I was on Android.
Yeah,
but I never switched back. Yeah.
I feel like I agree with what Shaun said.
Mm-hmm.
I also I really missed iMessage. I like iMessage. Weirdly enough, if that was on Android, I might consider it.
But not to cut you off, but there are also certain people in my life who I only talk to on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
I feel like if Colby, you turned around tomorrow and said, "Hey guys, I've decided I'm all in on Android, putting the chips on the table, all in, getting my Samsung Galaxy, gonna be sweet," I'd probably find another way to message you. I do challenge a little bit that assumption that iMessage.
But Colby does feel that way, which is more important than reality.
True.
Well, it's also I don't know, maybe it shouldn't feel this way, but iMessage feels more like texting and less like Facebook chat, and that may just be my perception of right. I know that right, and I know that Facebook Messenger was at one point the little thing that I typed into on the Facebook website at some point, which just feels like a thing I don't really want to be talking to people on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe the reality of that is that's just a perception thing.
So how many chat services would you say the average person uses on a daily basis in the United States?
I think 2.
Yeah, I would say 2, or I would say 2, and then if you want to go non-whole numbers, I bet that it's slightly greater than 2. I bet it's 2.1 or 2.2, because you've got for Apple users, you're sort of already using 2 built in, even if you don't think you are, or at least 1. And then a lot of people use Facebook Messenger, and so it might be closer to 3 because I think a lot of people then use a third alternative. a WhatsApp, a Signal, a WeChat, in addition to the chats that built into whatever social network they use.
Yep, I believe it.
So whatever Alibaba thing they have in China.
I guess it's probably 3 for me.
Oh God, for me,
does Slack count? Right?
Yeah.
I use Slack every day, not even in a work context. I feel like
exactly.
I message at least one of you every day.
So for me, it's iMessage, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Signal, Slack, 5.
Whoa, you're a high roller. Damn.
I wish I had more friends that use Signal. I feel so cool when I use it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Should I join
I'll
Signal?
never... Yes, you should.
So I'll
never delete it because Dan and I message on there. We're so secure.
What are you talking about that's so secret?
You'll never know.
Oh, damn.
Doesn't matter.
Wow, what a great tease to get me to sign up.
Yeah.
You'll never know what we're talking about.
If you also want to not know what we're talking about.
Anyway, speaking of iOS, we also have some rumors this week about iOS 12 and even 13. We'll hold off on features for just a second that are rumored, but interestingly, it's sort of come out in a good Bloomberg article here that talks about Apple considering more of a... TikTok isn't really a fair way to describe it. The way this article describes it is that Apple will continue to release a new version of iOS every year, but they're going to be more willing to delay large features if they believe they're not ready. According to this, Craig Federighi, who's in charge, has said there's no more rushing to kind of put out things before they're not done. Or we saw this with Apple Pay and iMessage is just an example that didn't end up getting released until several months after iOS was out. Their theory is that if they need to delay it, they're willing to do so. And make some updates more on reliability and things of that nature, rather than always having a big feature every year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I only read headlines basically these days, unless I'm on this show. I read a headline that was saying that Apple was going to switch to like a more continuous model where not only would they be like willing to push back features or spend more time working on bugs, but that they wouldn't be waiting for the big .0 releases to release a feature. And I feel like they've been slowly working towards this already. They'll release a feature in a point update. Was that? Have you heard anything about that? Maybe that was a fever dream.
I believe it.
Not joking.
This article was a little vague. So that would make sense to me. This article didn't say yes or no otherwise.
I think that's the best outcome here.
I mean, really the only thing you're losing is sort of the buzz around a new feature if it kind of just drops without some sort of big keynote announcement.
Yeah, but I don't think Apple's like one of the few companies that can get around that. They don't need it. Like, if Apple does something, it's amazing to me that even non-keynote Apple stories are on like the nightly local news. Apple today released it'll be, that's amazing. Samsung doesn't get that unless their phone's exploding. So I think that Apple is one of the few companies that can do like releases that are kind of important to the business and not have to worry so much about fanfare and press releases.
I feel like it could be a sort of an advantage for that, or
yes,
put it another way, all the built-in apps I feel like are at such a disadvantage against it in comparison to like their competitors' apps, like Maps, right? Like competing against Google Maps. Like Apple Maps is on on the same. It's one of the built-in apps, so like it only changes when the OS changes, and like, why should that be the case? I don't. It almost seems silly from that perspective. Like, maybe like OS level features, right? Like the home screen redesigns of the world. Like, sure, yeah, save that for the big thing. But Safari changes. Like Safari is.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me.
Even Safari on Mac now updates independently of the OS, which is great. But Safari on iOS has really sort of become just browser, since Safari is basically the only browser, like all the other browsers on iOS are just wrappers around Safari's renderer.
Right.
Like, we're missing out on so much fun times as iOS users.
Well,
Maybe it could also
what's
be because they don't
probably
care, but
yeah, but I feel like Apple's such a big company that the Safari team cares, right? It's just not really feasible.
Yeah.
But what's the real problem is that people who write apps, or rather websites, that need to work on old Safari, they're missing out on all the fun times because Safari is, like, statistically the last browser to get a lot of new features because they just release so infrequently.
Yeah.
Major, like, feature releases. So that's a good point. Yeah, if this means like every month or every 2 months, every 3 months, you get like a Safari update with actual like new APIs and stuff, that's already a fantastic outcome. And I know that's not keeping things the same.
No, but like, why not do it with? I would love to get Safari updates in like the App Store instead of in.
That might be trickier because I feel like WebKit is part of the OS, and like, what does it mean when you update Safari and that affects every other app that uses a web view? Right,
that's
like
true.
that's weird. That feels bizarre.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We can wish, though. We can dream.
Can dream. No one's stopping you.
Well, so we will keep an eye out exactly how they roll out these features come June at WWDC when they talk about iOS 12. Some features you might be looking forward to that are potentially coming in iOS 12. Single third-party apps. Apps that work on iPhones, iPads, and Macs. This will include an update to macOS as well. And it will involve bringing to the Mac some of Apple's own iPhone apps, including Home, to Mac for the first time. You'll also potentially see an update to the Animojis with new characters and a more easily navigated menu. And they'll also be coming to the iPad. Yes, the company is working on a new model that will have a Face ID camera built in. You might even be able to use them in FaceTime, which I'm sure someone wants. Also in the works for this year, redesigned version of the stock trading apps. That's pretty neat. And an updated version of Do Not Disturb that gives users more options to automatically reject phone calls and silence notifications, etc., etc. There was one other one that might be coming this year, which was just that. However, things that have been delayed potentially include the redesigned home screen, as we talked about, for iPhone, iPad, and CarPlay, a revamped Photos app. We also may see pushed out big iPad updates, including a feature that makes it possible to run several windows within one app and click between them like tabs in a web browser, and a related enhancement that lets two screens from the same app run side by side. We may also not see updates for the Apple Pencil stylus as well. Those may come later.
Cool.
So, there you go.
Cool.
A lot of things happening with Apple, but we'll have full coverage right here on Don't Panic. Okay. Sweet. We got time for another story. Interesting stuff. Can I pick one?
Yes, please.
Am I allowed? I know I normally don't do it. I don't know if I can do it.
Well, we believe in you.
Aw, that's very sweet. I'm going to pick Google streaming games because this sounds bananas to me. And I don't know if it's going to work. So here you go. Google is reportedly looking into developing a game streaming service that would allow it to stream software to a compatible Chromecast device or yet to be released home console. According to this report, the new service is codenamed Yeti. That's where the episode title comes from. In case you were wondering. Fun fact. And it would be similar to services like PlayStation Now and NVIDIA's GeForce Go. That means you would not have to download the software, but rather stream the game running on a remote Google server. Now, supposedly, Google is working on hardware, an actual console to power this you would plug into yours. No word if it would focus on Android games or all games in general, what games it would focus on, nor if it would work with their existing Chromecast devices as well. But this is sort of a project that they are working on. So I don't know. I just think it's crazy that Google's working on this, considering they have absolutely no history in video games. I mean, I suppose Android runs them, but they've never made them or been particularly ingrained in the industry. I mean,
well, they made that thing that then became Pokemon Go.
Oh yeah, that's right. What was that called? Niantic?
Yeah, that's the company name.
Yeah.
I forget what the first game was called.
They make all the things that happen when you click on the Google of the day things. Those are games.
That's right. They have a little army of Googlers pumping out JavaScript games the size of your thumb.
So Dan, and they're gonna stream great on your 4K TV.
Yeah.
I also imagine that they're like tiny miniature Googlers also sitting in a tiny room making tiny games on tiny computers. That's just me.
Dan, you gotta quit with the fever dreams, man. They're really not working for you.
I wish I could stop.
I'm very concerned. Yeah, I mean, would you guys buy a console from Google that streams games to your TV?
No. I feel like
I have a PlayStation though.
Yeah, if the Apple TV didn't take off, then I don't have, in terms of gaming, then I don't have much hope that.
I just think in the world of gaming exclusives, like who's gonna write a game for this thing? Like unless Google dumps a ton of money into it, like you're not gonna get any big franchises or big developers. It's not like it's running. Would it run? I guess it would run PC versions of games. I guess. Like I don't even understand.
I'm sure it would be. Yeah, I'm guessing it would be Android versions, and it's like an. But
what hot Android games are there?
I don't know. None of us have Android phones.
And then I would think that because no, so
all right.
Isn't the point, like, why are we doing streaming games at all? Why is anyone doing them?
So you can run more complicated games without having to spend all that money.
Okay, so then why would you do it with Android games, which don't require as much power or space?
Because Google is all about streaming stuff everywhere. That's why the Chromecast it has no freaking interface.
I guess, but like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Agree.
Thank you for saying that. No,
I agree. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, I would think that some of these other versions of this would have already taken off by now. This seems like one of those half-baked Google things that they roll out that never end up taking off, like the Nexus Q. People remember that, or the what else? I know there are a couple of the Google Glass, obviously.
Man, the Nexus Q, pour one out.
Yeah, that one. Dan, which would you rather own, the Nexus Q or the Apple Hi-Fi?
Does the Nexus Q have a headphone jack?
It has some kind of output. I don't remember. It was so short-lived. I don't remember.
If it does, then I bet the Apple Hi-Fi sounds better, so I would take that.
I read a couple years ago, or like a year ago, that they were going for a lot of money on eBay because apparently they sound really good, but they didn't sell that many of them. So
yeah.
I think it has a 30-pin dock on top, so you're gonna need a few converters to make that.
No,
work.
but it has a headphone jack. I read about this in a review of the HomePod.
I like to imagine Dan brings his hi-fi to like Starbucks with him, but plugs his headphones into it.
No. This is for plugging
in.
Yes.
Oh, I was hoping out. That wouldn't make any sense. That'd be dumb. That'd be stupid.
That would be stupid.
Gosh. All right. And any other tech news in here you guys want to talk about? Or should we move on to picks?
I think I'm good.
Yeah. Am I the only one sad that Best Buy's not selling CDs anymore?
Yes,
Yup.
You are. Although, Shaun, I noticed that instead of the $1 MP3 credit, if you do like the super slow shipping mode, you get $5 CD or vinyl credit.
Yeah, man. Dude, I will rep all day long for Amazon CDs because you get this. A lot of them, you get the CD and you get the auto rip MP3 version. So you get both. It costs the same as just buying the MP3s, and they basically throw in the CD for free. So get the CD because it's great. I'm gonna be so bummed because when I replace my car, none of the cars now have a CD player, and that's the only CD player I own is my car. So I have a stack of CDs that are just worthless the second I replace my car.
I can confirm Shaun does in fact have a stack of CDs in his car.
I do.
Yes,
People
I
get
can
so
also.
impressed. That's the first thing they get in my car. Wow, they're really blown away.
It's a conversation starter. It's like the coffee table book of the automobile.
They're like, you have the
You
best
can
of
leaf
Night
through
Ranger and Survivor? Dude, you're so cool. What is this? What is this? Seals and Crofts' greatest hits? The best of bread? Shaun, you have great taste in music.
Shaun, you have taste in music.
You have very sour taste in music. Yes. So anyway, may the CD rest in peace. No, we're going to move on to Picks, part of the show where each of us brings something we want to share with the world. Sometimes it's an app, sometimes it's a show, sometimes it's anything we want. Last week, Colby picked Earl Grey tea. So this week we've got quite a selection. I'll go first only because we talked about it at the top of the show, the Olympics.
Yeah.
How do you watch the Olympics? That's a really great question, Dan. The best way to do it in the United States is with the NBC Olympics app. The downside is you do have to have a cable login to use it. Okay, it's sad. But a somewhat pro tip, is it works if you get like Sling or one of those services and you can use those credentials, and that's like $20 a month, and the Olympics is a month. So you're just paying $20 basically for full access to the Olympics. So it's not crazy. But yes, you do have to have credentials. But I will say I'm very suspicious of cable company apps. They have very good apps. The iPhone app is great. The streams are very clear. They load fast, and they have all the events. The Roku app is excellent. Works fast, has all the streams, both the sort of NBC and NBCSN cable channel streams, but also the individual event streams. Work super well. That's how I've been watching the Olympics, and they do great. The only downside is that they send, and you can turn them off, but they send you push alerts. And let's see if I can find an example here I can show you in my history. But like you can see, they fill them with goddamn emojis. Look at all these emojis in the.
Can you hold it more to the center of the screen?
Well, I have two cameras. You can, but can you?
Sorry.
They're full of emojis, and all of them.
Is that bacon?
Yeah. What the woman who won the gold in the half pipe was tweeting about how hungry she was and wanted food like while she was doing it, like in between runs. She was.
Did
tweeting.
Kevin Bacon win an Olympic medal?
I would watch
the
that.
medal
in women's half pipe. Yeah. So anyway, NBC Olympics, the app is great, the website's great. You do have to have a cable login, but pro tip: pick up one of the online streaming services and check it out as well.
Colby, is this how you're watching also?
Well, I don't have a cable subscription. I haven't picked one up, so I've only watched at other people's houses who do have a cable subscription.
Okay.
Well, and you can get it NBC over the air in primetime and in the
That's true.
afternoons.
Yeah. Right.
So now those aren't. Some of them are live, not all of them. Some of them are pre-recorded because of the time zone.
Maybe if I don't fall asleep after the show, I'll go put the Olympics on.
Oh, they're done. They end at like 11. So, yeah, they're only in prime time. Because the thing is they take a break and then they kick back up at like 1 a.m. All the events live, most of the good events live are like 1 a.m. to like 5 a.m.
Right. Well, they are like exactly on the other side of the world, right?
Basically, yeah. It's tough with the time zones. So.
Fair enough.
You can always catch them tomorrow. All right. Now, Colby, you teased an app about finding stuff.
It's actually not about finding stuff. It's about like computerifying your annoying file tasks. So for my job, I take anywhere between like 2 and like 25 screenshots a day for like stuff, because like I work on UIs, so I have to take screenshots of them to show people. Pretty much that's what it is. I don't know. So for the last like 5 years of my life, a ritual is like at the end of the day, I like go on my desktop and I like select all the screenshots that I've taken all day and I delete them. Not a big problem. It works. But I on another podcast that we listen to, Do by Friday, I they talked about this app called Hazel, which is like it's just a little utility for Mac OS. It adds like a preference pane in your settings, and you can set it up to do stuff with your files. So, for example, you can. What I did with it is I set it up to once every whatever amount of time. I don't know what amount of time it does things when things happen, I guess. Every hour it checks my desktop for screenshots, and if there are screenshots there that have been there for more than an hour, it just deletes them for me, moves them to the trash. So I don't have to clean up my desktop anymore. It's cool. If you have a dumb problem like that, you could probably work around it with this. Or like if you have things that you need to move to your Dropbox folder, or things you need to move out of your Dropbox folder, maybe. There's all kinds of like conditions you can say, like, you know, if for files in this folder, if something happens, do this. I mostly looked at the how old is this file ones, but there were a lot.
Now, Colby, the question I'm going to ask.
I don't. Why didn't I make this myself?
No. Why didn't you write this in JavaScript? No. Can you hook this up to if this then that?
Oh, I have no idea.
So that we can tweet at you and delete random files on your computer.
Now, I bet you can hook if this and that up to Dropbox, right? So, like, I bet you could hook if this and that up to Dropbox, like create files in your Dropbox when somebody tweets at you, which downloads onto your computer and then causes this to do stuff in your file system.
Is Hazel Turing complete?
I don't know. But I don't know. So to be fair, I've used it for like 4 days now. I haven't gotten out of the 14-day free trial period, so I don't know if I'm going to buy it or
when that's over.
I think you have to pay for it. It's 32 doll hairs.
Oh man. One time?
It looks like one time. Though I feel like it's an iStat menu situation because it's Hazel version 4. I'll always be upgrading. But
now I have a question because on their website, if you scroll down to the part where they have the nice pull quotes from reviews, there's one here from a Dan Miller of Macworld. Dan, I don't know if it says Hazel's combination of power and ease of use makes it one of the handiest Mac utilities I've used. Dan Miller. Now, have you been freelancing for Macworld? And didn't
like you said, Shaun, and I readily admitted to, there were a lot of fever dreams this weekend. I think at one point I did think that I was one of these cool like Apple boys with their magazine and their column, and maybe I took that a little too far.
Look, now I'm reading the full review on Macworld, and at the end it just kind of spirals into a bunch of gibberish and then talks about how much he wants a chicken sandwich. This is very weird. This is very
I start talking about chicken patties and patty alerts, and it's really weird.
And if then this then that. It's
patty alert.
Cool, Hazel. This is one of those apps that make me jealous. I don't use a Mac, so this is sweet.
You do use a Mac, Shaun.
And I ain't paying $32 to put on my work machine. That's for sure.
I see. But then you could, when you leave,
expense that shit.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
and save that receipt for a long time.
That's not.
You never know when
take it with you.
5-year auditing, limit comes up.
Yeah, no. When I deduct that, it is a work expense. Noodlesoft.com is the website. You can check it out now. Hazel 4 for Mac. Dan.
Do you think their competitor is called Al Dente?
Anyway, where were we? Dan, you've got a pick for us. Please tell me you have a pick for us.
So I do have a pick, and this is one of those picks where I didn't really have anything to pick, so I just looked through like some of the things in my life, and if hoped beyond hope that I hadn't picked it yet on this show. And one of those things is the IT Crowd. Shaun, have you watched the IT Crowd?
I have. I didn't care for it.
Oh man,
Did not think it was funny. I'm not a real British comedy guy.
Okay, yeah.
Like the British Office, I didn't find funny either. So.
I am such a sucker for British comedy. Let's see, the IT Crowd. It's about these people who stereotypically work in the basement of this megalopolis megacorp in their IT department, and the joke that everyone knows is, have you tried turning it off and on again, is how they always answer the phones. But the show is so much more than nerd jokes, but it is grounded in the fact that the nerd jokes are all real, and like the set, if you're a nerd and you look at that set, you're not disappointed. You can keep staring, being like, what is that EFF poster in the back? And like, that's a Commodore 64, and is that like a Slackware Linux CD? It's crazy. But the episodes are so funny, and most of them have nothing to do with computers at all. And the three leads are comedic geniuses, as well as the boss. I don't know. It's given me much joy throughout the years. If you watch IT Crowd in the past, you may have missed the fact that there is a new final episode called The Final Episode, which came out in 2014, I think. And that is really funny, and it brings back all the characters you love and ties everything together, and is in a nice sitcom-y way, like that perfect combination of hilarious and touching. So if you haven't watched IT Crowd, check it out. Unless you're like Shaun and you hate British comedy, in which case you will probably hate it.
It's easy.
It's extremely dry.
Yeah. Now, Dan, have you ever seen the pilot for the American remake they did a few years ago? So all you need to know about it is it's like The Office, like those first couple episodes of The Office where they like cookie cuttered the British one, and it's not funny because they didn't Americanize it. And in the IT Crowd, it's one of the guys is the same, but the other guy is Joel McHale from Community, and it's I know it's on
same?
the not the African American guy is the same.
Moss?
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yes, yeah. So
It's
he's
the
in
best
it,
weird.
and the lady's the same. Go the
That's
full
so
pilot's on
weird.
YouTube. At some
Wait,
point,
what?
go watch
The
it. It's
same people?
It's so bizarre. It's like the same show.
Do they have British accents?
Well, he does, but no, Joel McHale doesn't, and the lady, I forget who the American lady was who did it.
Oh, they had a new lady.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's just one person
Yes.
who's the same.
Yeah, they carried him over, but the set looks the same.
But God, what's the character's name? The actor's
Moss.
name is Richard Moss. Moss has an English accent.
I believe he does. Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't watched in a while, but go if you have a chance. The whole thing's on YouTube. Go
I might
watch
have
it.
to watch
It's
it.
spectacular. It's so awkward and not funny.
Man,
It's pretty
okay.
good. So anyway, that's a little fun tip for you. And I think I read it. Was it this year that they want to try another U.S. remake of it?
It could be good,
I think they were working on it.
but I think it could be good.
Sure. I don't see why not.
I feel like it could be good if they didn't do exactly the same thing, right? Like if they don't.
Yeah.
And if they have Richard Ayoud back in some capacity, even if it's not Moss, like the problem is in British comedy making like the likable nerd, like how do you get away from Sheldon with that in the United States? Like where do you? I don't know. That's what I would be afraid of.
That's true. America does love a good stereotype.
It is funny. Super. The IT Crowd now available on Netflix near you. Super. That's gonna wrap us up. That's it, guys. We did it.
We did it.
We're only kind of overtime, but that's fine. We had a lot of Olympics banter at the top. Before we head out, I want to remind people of a couple things. Don'tPanic.io is our website. You should check it out. These guys work very hard on it. and it's got all the audio, the video, the picks for every week are there. If you would like more information on these, you can check out the links there. Also, information on how to subscribe anywhere you get podcasts. Overcast.fm is our preferred player of choice. You can also get us on iTunes, as well as on YouTube at youtube.com/don'tpanicshow. Check out the video version, always fantastic in HD. And at Don't Panic Show on Twitter and don'tpanicshow@gmail.com is how you can reach out and contact us. Let's see. I'll also remind everybody, of course, that we're playing D&D over at Game Nights, gamenights.tv. Exciting episode just went up this past weekend. We're out looking for treasure. We get into a bit of a stinky situation.
We find Trevor?
We find Trevor in a place you'd least expect. So we wake up from being unconscious. It's a lot of fun. You can check it out at gamenights.tv. And, of course, Up for Debate at upfordebate.tv. This last episode, we revealed the winner of our Super Bowl Prop Bets Challenge. The episode coming this week, we review the book of Dice and Men. Spoiler alert, it was terrible. We're going to talk about it. I didn't tell you guys this. We got one of our first Up for Debate YouTube comments.
Ooh,
which
really?
we get. No one watches the YouTube videos, so how they found us, I don't know. It was on our Last Jedi episode, and they didn't agree with us. But I'll just tell you, the comment started out with the what is now the pull quote for the show, which is, "How is this a show? These guys both agree on everything." Or something. I'm paraphrasing something, and I'm like, no, we've never been able to sum up the show as well as that guy just did.
Up for Debate. Subtitle. Not really, though.
Yes, exactly. We always agree.
What is the most contentious topic that you've had on Up for Debate?
Dan, that's a really good question. I'd have to go back. Honestly, none comes to mind. That's how much we agree on stuff.
You should have an episode about that topic.
Just
see if you can agree on which episode it was.
Yes, because I think I'd have to look. I think it'd be pretty hard. I think we agreed on. I think we agree on pretty. But then again, it's not like we talk about anything super.
Here's an idea.
Okay.
March Madness bracket of all of you. You pick like your top, whatever, 128. How many episodes have you done?
103.
103. Top, yeah. Just do all the episodes and do a bracket elimination of the most contentious between two, and see where it ends.
Yeah. I think it's going to be hard. I don't think there are going to be many where we disagree. But we'll let you know. But anyway, that does it for us here, so be sure to join us next time as we talk more tech news. On behalf of Colby and Dan, this is Shaun, thanking all of you for joining us. Hoping you had as much fun as we did. We'll see you next time for more tech news and good times here on Don't Panic.